Welcome back to Reds Fusion LFC, your ultimate home for all things Liverpool. Huge deadline day drama as the Reds strike massive deals. Alexander Isak completes his Liverpool medical after a $125 million swoop. Marc Guehi seals a $35 million switch with medicals confirmed, and Harvey Elliott edges closer to a shock $35 million move to Aston Villa. Stick around as we break down how Klopp could line up with these blockbuster signings and what it means for Salah's new role. Let's dive in, Reds. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with every twist and turn in the transfer window. Liverpool agree $125 million Alexander Isak transfer as Newcastle striker. Set for medical, Alexander Isak is heading to Liverpool for a medical, after a $125 million agreement was struck with Newcastle United on Sunday evening. Liverpool have reached a British record agreement with Newcastle United for Alexander Isak. The striker is now set for a medical ahead of a $125 million move to Anfield on transfer deadline day. The 25-year-old will become the most expensive signing in the club's history, eclipsing the $116 million deal struck with Bayer Leverkusen for Florian Wirtz in June, and a 6-year contract will be penned. The Reds reopened talks with their Premier League counterparts over the weekend and reached an agreement late on Sunday evening, paving the way for Isak to complete the formalities of his dream move in time for the 7 p.m. deadline on Monday. Isak is slated to take part in his first competitive fixture since May, when Sweden play a World Cup qualifier against Slovenia on Friday, September 5th, and the forward is likely to take the numbered 9 shirt at Anfield that was vacated by Darwin Núñez after his exit in July. The blockbuster deal brings an end to a summer-long saga that has seen Isak both privately and publicly agitate to leave St. James's Park to join Arne Slot's champions, a stance which has led to him taking strike action in the Northeast and having insisted that they needed to sign 2 strikers before agreeing to a sale at $150 million. The Magpies are now set to lose their star player for $25 million below their initial valuation, having only added Nick Woltemade to their ranks since informing Liverpool of their conditions at the beginning of August, when a $110 million offer was swiftly rebuffed. The Reds were reported to have informed the Magpies in July they were willing to offer around $120 million for Isak, which was news that emerged just days before the player missed the preseason friendly defeat to Celtic on July 19th. Isak subsequently opted against joining his colleagues on their preseason tour of the Far East, citing a minor injury, and returned to training by using the facilities of his former club, Real Sociedad. At the beginning of August, the 20-time champions saw a flat $110 million offer rejected by Newcastle, and the nature of the response from Tyneside had been enough for the Reds to pause further negotiations, while Eddie Howe and his recruitment staff attempted to source an adequate successor. However, it's understood the capture of Woltemade, which was confirmed on Friday, was the catalyst for the shift in attitude in the Northeast, as senior officials softened on their previous hardline stance over a big money sale of their number 14. After missing out to Manchester United for Benjamin Sesko in a $73 million deal in August, Newcastle have been looking to bring in Jon Wissa of Brentford and Wolves Norway international Jorgen Strand Larsen. Liverpool agree $35 million Marc Guehi transfer, as medical details confirmed. Breaking. Marc Guehi is undergoing a medical ahead of his move from Crystal Palace to Liverpool. Marc Guehi is having his medical in London ahead of a $35 million transfer from Crystal Palace to Liverpool on transfer deadline day. Having initiated talks earlier this month, the Premier League champions tabled an offer of $35 million with a 10% sell-on clause on Saturday, although the FA Cup holders had been insisting on a $40 million deal for their defender. An agreement has now been reached between the clubs, paving the way for Guehi to undergo a medical in the capital ahead of completing a move to Liverpool. Eagles boss Oliver Glasner had been desperate to keep his captain for the campaign, but with the 25-year-old inside the final 12 months of his deal at Selhurst Park, Palace feel they are left with little choice but to do business. Joe Gomez had been discussed as a potential make-weight in a deal for Guehi, after Glasner claimed on Friday that it was not possible to source a successor to his captain at such short notice. But Liverpool had no interest in losing their versatile and long-serving defender on a short-term deal. The Austrian coach doubled down on his insistence that Guehi could not move without a successor in place, saying after Sunday's 3-0 win over Aston Villa, in a game where Guehi scored an eye-catching strike, Glasner said, "We had a meeting in March, and we had an agreement that we're just selling Marc if we have the right replacement in. And we wanted to have this replacement at the beginning of the season, the pre-season, to be independent from this situation. This was July 9th, today is August 31, there is no replacement in the building. So it is clear that one part of the agreement is not fulfilled. That means we can't sell Marc. And it's not for Oliver Glasner. It's not a gift or a wish for Oliver Glasner. It's necessary for playing a successful season. We had a great start. We are the first-time European football, and I think our fans deserve to have the best players available. And no, if we don't sell Marc, then Marc will accept it. Because he loves Crystal Palace, he loves the team, and we feel the appreciation he has, and he also feels the same from his side. Palace have been linked with centre-back additions for most of the summer. Back in June, Sporting's Ousmane Diomande was outlined as the primary target, while talks over Toulouse's 19-year-old JD Canvo are now said to be at an advanced stage. Roma's Evan Ndicka is another who is said to be attracting interest at Selhurst Park, although Manchester City's Switzerland international Manu Akanji is believed to be closing in on a move to Inter Brighton's. Julio Igor is edging nearer a season-long loan move to Palace, which has paved the way for Guehi to complete his dream move to Merseyside. The 35-metre agreement will take Liverpool's spending up to around the 360-metre mark, with Alexander Isak still expected to break the British record later. Today, in a 120-metre move from Newcastle United, Alexander Isak has passed his Liverpool medical ahead of deadline day move. Liverpool are close to signing Alexander Isak and Marc Guehi to complete the greatest transfer window in Premier League history. In a summer that has seen Florian Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike, among many others, join Liverpool, they are taking it 2 steps further by negotiating last-minute deals for Isak and Guehi. Now it would appear as though Liverpool are ready to take the final steps to making them Reds. Isak passes Liverpool medical. Liverpool have taken major strides in the last day over deals for Isak and Guehi, but the big final worry is over as Isak has been cleared medically to join the Anfield outfit. Isak will be under immense pressure to perform at Anfield, but only Mohamed Salah scored more goals in the Premier League last season, and at the age of 25, there is every chance Isak becomes one of the best strikers in English top-flight history. Multiple reports from trusted sources today confirm that Liverpool have reached agreements with both Newcastle United and Crystal Palace for the transfer of their prized assets. The additions to Arne Slot further strengthens Liverpool's hopes of adding more silverware to their collection. Between Isak and Salah, 52 goals were scored last season, and now Premier League defenses must worry about shutting them both out. With a 1-0 win over Arsenal, Liverpool took their first league table lead of the season right before the international break, a crucial moment to stake their first claim on this season's title. Isak and Guehi are not just top players. They also round out the squad depth needed at Anfield after a summer of many sales. Liverpool agree, 35 million deal with medical booked for new arrival. Liverpool have agreed a transfer which could be worth up to $35 million next summer. Liverpool and Aston Villa have negotiated a deal which sees Harvey Elliott heading to Villa Park. The ex-Fulham midfielder leaves Anfield on transfer deadline day after several years with the club, having won 2 Premier League titles. Elliot joined in a 4.3 meters transfer from Craven Cottage while still a teenager, his fee ultimately decided by a tribunal. The 22-year-old has made just 2 appearances this season, amounting to 6 minutes on the pitch, and is thought to be surplus to requirements by Arne Slot. He has made 149 appearances for the Reds, ahead of joining Villa on a season-long loan, but is unlikely to represent Liverpool again due to the conditions of the deal. According to Fabrizio Romano, Liverpool have negotiated a loan with obligation, which will see the club earn €35 million from Elliot's sale next summer. Villa are under difficult financial constraints this year due to profitability and sustainability regulations, PSR, and have been unable to sign many players for fees. Much of their business late in the window has involved loans and free transfers. Therefore, it makes sense for the Villains to defer their Elliot payment by 12 months in order to avoid financial or potentially sporting sanctions for exceeding the allowable 3-year loss limit stipulated by PSR. Elliot is valued at 30 million, 26 million by transfer marked, and has 2 years remaining on his Liverpool contract. He will have 12 months remaining at Anfield when his Villa switch is finalized permanently. Meanwhile, Liverpool are expected to announce the signing of Marc Guehi this evening, as the player will reportedly undergo a medical before sealing a switch from Crystal Palace to the Northwest. How Liverpool can line up with Alexander Isak, Ekitike duo, Wirtz dropped, new Salah role. With Alexander Isak's transfer to Liverpool nearing its completion, Mirror Football has a look at how Arne Slot may deploy the Swedish forward in his starting lineup. Arne Slot has finally secured his top target of the transfer window, but how does he fit Alexander Isak into his Liverpool lineup? The 25-year-old striker arrived at Liverpool's training ground on deadline day morning for a medical test. Liverpool agreed a $125 million deal with Newcastle for his signature after a long and painful summer of Isak trying to force an exit from St. James's Park. Now the Swede is in the Reds' grasp. The defending Premier League champions will need to work out how they can use him alongside their summer signings, 116 midfield magician Florian Wirtz and 79 million goal machine Hugo Ekitike, as well as Liverpool mainstay Mohamed Salah. Ahead of Isak's imminent arrival at Anfield, Mirror Football has a look at how the Reds manager can accommodate Isak, something Slot will no doubt be pondering over the international break. Slot sticks to his tried and tested. When a big change is on the horizon, it's sometimes best to keep everything else as similar as possible. With this in mind, Slot may stick with the 4-2-3-1 formation he has been deploying this season. This would likely see Wirtz keep his position behind the striker while Salah attacks from the right-hand side. However, with Isak in the building, Ekitike, who boasts 2 goals and 1 assist in his first 3 Premier League matches, may be shifted out to the left. This would leave Isak, who will surely be given the Reds' number 9 shirt left vacant by Darwin Núñez, as the lone striker up front. It also means that Dominic Szoboszlai, who is currently filling in at right-back for the injured Jeremy Frimpong and has been sensational this term, would lose his place in the starting 11th. With so many world-class attackers, Slot may decide to simply play all of them. Attack has been Liverpool's first form of defense, scoring 8 goals in their first 3 matches while conceding 4. Harvey Elliott nears Liverpool exit as Aston Villa agree $35 million transfer. Deal Liverpool attacking midfielder. Harvey Elliott is completing a move to Premier League rivals Aston Villa. Liverpool have agreed a deal with Aston Villa over the signing of Harvey Elliott. The Midland side will take the 22-year-old on an initial season-long loan with an obligation to then buy the player for $35 million. Elliott held discussions with RB Leipzig last month, with the Bundesliga side having been expected to make a move. Once Xavi Simons completed his anticipated departure, with the Dutchman signing for Tottenham Hotspur for $51 million on Saturday. But Villa have instead sealed a deal for Elliot, who has seen his first-team opportunities limited since the arrival of Arne Slot as Liverpool head coach last summer. The player is set to undergo a medical in Birmingham later today. Villa are having to be creative with their transfer business to ensure they comply with UEFA's financial restrictions, having qualified for the Europa League. Liverpool have already brought in more than $200 million in sales this summer to help offset a spend in excess of $300 million that will increase further with the signing of Alexander Isak from Newcastle United for $125 million. The Reds also remain interested. In Crystal Palace centre-back Marc Guehi, having bid $35 million for a player who is out of contract next summer. Palace are preparing for life after Guehi by looking to sign Brighton centre-back Igor Julio on loan, while also pursuing at least one other defensive option. AC Milan, though, is unlikely to be a destination for Liverpool defender Joe Gomez regardless of whether or not Guehi arrives, with the Italian side having for now walked away from a possible deal. Jadon Danns is unlikely to leave Liverpool on loan as the Reds continue to monitor his progress after an injury that curtailed a temporary stay at Sunderland last season. Midfielder Stefan Bajcetic and left-backs Callum Scanlon and Luke Chambers are also staying as they recover full fitness. Kaide Gordon is still seeking a loan move after a deal with League One side Blackpool failed to be agreed, while Rhys Williams could also be moved on a temporary basis.